The piano was like my freedom because I went to church 4 times a week. And I think my father was convinced that I loved going to church, but you didn't really have a choice. The one thing I could choose in my life was what shoes I could wear and what music I played. Singing as a choir girl. It was called the Cherub Choir, and I was a terrible singer, really. I had a very hard time. Even though I had good pitch, I was always trying to sound like Robert Plant. And you can imagine being a little girl trying to sound like some of my favorite musicians anyway. I would try and sound like them. And I remember this boy, Kevin Craig, when I was 9, writing a note to a girl called Peggy, and I had this huge crush on him, like huge. I was so in love with him. And he said, Tori Ellen sounds like a frog. She's got the worst voice I've ever heard. She should shut up forever. And I was crushed and didn't sing for like 6 months until my brother talked me into doing it again. I was composing at a really young age, but just more music than lyrics. It was more piano compositions. And then I think around 8 or 9, I started making up stories, like, you know, stupid stuff, like the Jackass and the Toad song, meeting, I don't know, some animal on the street and having a conversation with it, just wacky, like mushroom trip stuff. But when you're young, you live in this strange fantasy world where inanimate objects can talk to you. So my songs were about ketchup talking. I don't know, just weird. I was studying at the Peabody Conservatory when I was 5, until I was 11, and the idea was that I was supposed to become a concert pianist. But it really wasn't in my blood. I think it has to be in your blood, or you can't. That whole world is really about competition. And I don't, in my heart, I don't want to be competitive. I'm a Leo, sun sign. Thank God, not much else Leo, or I would be a nutcase. So there is a bit of that competition in me, but I don't enjoy that. And being in the classical field, it was very much about, were you winning the competition, the piano recitals? Where did you place? It's very, very sports-like. And I didn't, that side started to kill me musically, because I didn't want to have to, play a piece a certain way in order to win the competition, when I thought that way wasn't what the piece should be. So I didn't do very well in that world.
She's a deck down to make a dang bad cheese. She's a deck down to make a dang bad cheese. She's afraid of the light in the dark. 6:58, are you sure where my sparkies? Here.
Classical music, I think, is really detached, whereas like blues and jazz, to me, were much more feeling. It was very much, the audience was part of the band, whether you call the audience, the Greek chorus in jazz or blues. But I've always felt that that's a gift that rock music, pop music can have, where when a band is really playing with each other, the audience feels very much a part of this, like you're in a teepee and you're sharing the smoke. It becomes very much about the peace pipe, whereas in classical music, and even sometimes in pop music, not so much blues and jazz, but pop music, sometimes I feel very detached when I'm watching a band. Sometimes it's like they're here and they're a bit aloof, they're a bit, there's this arrogance. And then the audience is the peasants watching, and it can be very much like that, I think, in pop music, but I don't feel that with jazz and blues. And I've tried to, that really always spoke to me, watching blues players and how they were interacting with you.
She's convinced she come home back a glacier, but she couldn't keep baby alive, doubting if there's a woman in there somewhere.
I think I'm moving in a direction that I don't even know where I'm going, because as the music business gets more and more commercial, because in the States and in Britain it's getting much more about the pop song and much less about an album. Radiohead, a few other bands slipped through, but when you talk about the difference between the late 60s and early 70s, the amount, and FM radio, what that did for artists. You don't have FM radio anymore in America. You do, but that's an illusion. That's really not what it is. It's very much the industry has become so commercialized that you don't have a lot of room for your beatnik, for the artist side of it. Just without having to play both sides of the game. Obviously, sometimes I play both sides of the game. So I sing about a lot of stuff that goes on sort of behind the scenes in the women's locker room that doesn't get talked about a lot. And the women know exactly what I'm talking about. Even the ones that have the knife in the back that are going to cut their friend's throat out to get their man, they know what I'm talking about. And I think it's good that sort of a little secret we share. I am not your señorita. One of my biggest influences was Led Zeppelin, so when I put a band together, I didn't want the band to be a gratuitous, you know, just the drums there. It was very much about, if I'm going to put a band together, I have to feel like, you know, we could open for Rage Against the Machine absolutely with no problem as far as energy level. Things are getting desperate.
Shall